祭の当日の千葉の写真なんです。ディズニーランドの横のね。で、高まりで言うと大丈夫です。
This is the picture of in Chiba when they had the Great East Japan earthquake.
スコットランドで地震があった時のロンドンぐらいの距離です。
So it's like from the same distance from Scotland to London.
で、この石油タンクはですね、東北で起こった地震でも爆発しないように設計されてたんですが、このように爆発してしまった理由を今から説明しますね。
Okay, these are oil tanks, and they were designed, not supposedly designed to not explode even during an earthquake, but they exploded anyway. I'm going to explain why.
この日、タンクの検査の日だったんですね。検査だからいろいろ危険なことをするわけです。それで爆発しないように検査の日にはタンクの中のオイルを全部水に変えたんです。そうすると奇襲がなくなる。オイルが入っているという設計で大丈夫だということになったけど、その時たまたま水でいっぱいだから重くて転がって落ちた。で転がって落ちたらこの辺の設備を全部破壊して、ちっちゃな火の時にボタンで消せるようにしてたのが起動しなかったんで、どんどん広がってブロした。
Okay, so what happened was when the earthquake happened, it was the day when they had to make some tests. And they had to take out the oil, and they had to put water in it because it's a test. Okay. And the earthquake happened, and the tanks tilted over, toppled over, and when the fire occurred, there's supposed to be a button that they should press to stop the fire, but it didn't work, and that's why they had this.
We didn't expect that the water is heavier than the oil, but unexpected such things happen. So this is the fighting with the national disasters. 今後はですね、皆さんは海の上に立ってますということが書いてあります。どういう時かというと、台風が毎年日本には秋に来るんですけども、その時の平均海面の高さです。だから台風の時でも町はこういう壁で守られているので、もし海面の上に皆さんが立ってると、あの写真で見られるように、全部この壁でですね、防潮堤で守られているので、町の中は見えない。でそれではわからないんで、町の中がどうなっているかはここをカットして皆さんに見れるようにしています。
Okay, what's written here is you're standing on the sea. Okay, so this part is already part of the sea. And when a typhoon comes, then okay, the sea level rises, and you have these walls here to protect the towns over there. So if you were in the sea, you would actually be looking at something like that. Okay, you will be looking at and then you have walls over there to protect the city from water rising.
From September to November, we had attacked by lots of typhoon. This height is the average height of such a standard level typhoon. Inside. さっきのビデオで3つの台風についてご覧いただきました。それは平均よりも大きなサイズの台風なんですが、ちょうどですね、家の横にですね、このボタンを押したら、
Press the button.
Look at that plate. 1時間の間にですね、潮位がこのプレートの達する高さまで行きます。ですから平均的な台風だったら2階に避難したら大丈夫というふうにみんな思ってたんですけども、この3つの台風の時は家の横の3つのブルーラインがですね、あそこまで高潮が来たので2階に避難した人もみんな犠牲になりました。
Okay, so in the video you saw three kinds of typhoons, and okay, what happens is that, well, you just press the button, and that is the height of the water, okay, and the speed of how the water rises. Some people, they think that if they go to the second floor of the house, then they're safe, but as you can see over there, the blue line, the three blue lines, represent the height of the water during the typhoon, and they would not be safe even on the second floor.
It was only 1 hour to raise this height to the water.
So it's really fast.
赤い線はですね、今年の台風21号でここまで来ました。で過去に、少し最大の台風がここに来た場合でも最悪のコンディションで持つようにハードウェアが作られているので、まずは高水の被害を受けませんでしたけども、地球の温暖化の影響で明らかに台風が大きくなっている。レッドライン。21号は6月だったんですね。
So I don't know if you have heard, but in June a very strong typhoon came to Japan. Okay, and you can see the red line. That red line represents the water level if the typhoon, or if we don't have any safety hardware to protect the city. But fortunately, the city was ready. They had walls to protect the city, and there was they didn't suffer much damage from flood.
Because we have a natural disaster law. The basic concept is that only seeing the natural disaster attack in this country in the past. The biggest one, suppose biggest one, are attacking here in Osaka, but I will be necessary to protect the city inside, and all the hardware are designed and explained.
Okay, move next.
反時計回りのもあるんです。だから台風の中心がもしここにいるとしたら、風はこういうふうに吹き込みますからね。だからこの辺の海の水を全部大阪の町に押し寄せる形で風が吹いてるわけです。だから台風がこう来るのが一番危険だ。
Okay, so the point here is how or in what direction would the typhoon have to come so that Osaka would be facing a very, very dangerous situation. Now the typhoon moves in a counterclockwise direction. Counterclockwise. So it moves here, and if the typhoon moves in this direction and hits Osaka, now that would be very, very dangerous.
3 minutes. またこれ塊で言いますからね。この室戸台風は、昭和9年1934年に大阪を襲いました。当時の世界最大と言われた強さも中心気圧が912ヘクトパスカルで、こういうデータはですね、実は台風があまりに強いんで、ピークの直前にですね、電線が切れてしまいました。ですからエスティメーション推定値なんですけども、最大の台風というふうになっています。
Okay, so the typhoon Muroto happened in 1934, September 21, and at that time they estimated it to be the strongest typhoon. It was so strong that even the electric wires from the poles snapped.
最初に言うべきでしたけども、日本のですね、災害対策基本法の基本的な考え方は、過去に日本を襲った自然災害がこの大阪に来た時にですね、最悪のコンディションでどれだけの被害を及ぼすかというのをシミュレーションして、それに耐えれるハードウェアを作るというようなことが書かれていて、それを実行しております。
Okay, so their standards actually for making the facilities are from the past strong typhoons. Okay, so they rethink again what happened then, and they make facilities which would withstand such typhoons.
でこの台風から何を学んだかを今から説明します。被害はこういった写真を見ていただくと分かるんですけども、これは3000トンの船ですから、津波と同じようなですね、水の力を感じていただけると思います。
Okay, so he's now going to explain what they learned from the typhoon, and you can the ship here. Okay, it's overturned, 3,000-ton ship, and so the strength of the water is equivalent to a very large tsunami.
And can you mention where it is? What kind of place it is? river mouse。高潮がですね、町に押し寄せるとすると、防潮壁とか壁でですね、町は守られてます。で、川のところはオープンウォーターなので、そこに水が全部集中して、船とか浮いてるものも全部こちらに入ってきますから、川の中はまるで洗濯機の中に船を放り込んだみたいになって、それぞれこう潰し合ってですね。で、最後は進まなくなって、ビーバーダムみたいにここで水が中に溢れると。そういうことが起こりました。
Okay, so he told you that this is the river. Since they made walls then, okay, the water had nowhere else to go but through the river. Now the rivers were open, and what happened was it was like a washing machine. Okay, and everything got mixed up and clogged there, and this is what happened.
この台風が来たのは平日の午前中9時過ぎだったんですね。で、全部の当時は台風で学校が休みになってなかったものですから、子どもたちが学校に来た時にほとんど日本の学校は木造の学校で、この木造の建物というのは押すのは強いんですね。だけど中に風が吹き込むと釘で固定してるだけだから一瞬にバラバラになってしまう。そういうことで、676人の子どもたちが死んでしまいました。
Okay, so at that time when the typhoon hit, it was a weekday and it was in the morning. So the children were already at school. Now over there, it's a picture of school building. The school buildings then were made of wood. Now they're very strong if you push them down, but if wind comes in, then it breaks up. Okay, and so since the children were there, over there is a picture of the children. Okay, but about 676 children died from the typhoon.
We don't want to repeat such an sad affair again. そういうことで、まずですね、木造の建物が原因だったので、これを原因で全てですね、鉄筋に変えることにしました。だけど時間とかがすごくかかるんで、その間に同じ台風が来たら防げないということで、その反省でソフトウェアですね、台風の暴風警報が来ると学校が休みになるというのが本当に決まりです。だから今子どもたちは台風が来るとみんな喜びます。
So to prevent this from happening again, they knew the problem was the school buildings were made of wood and they had to rebuild the buildings into concrete and steel. However, they could not do that at the same time because it's very expensive and it takes a lot of time. And what they did was, while they were trying to catch up to rebuild everything into strong buildings, they made a system that when a typhoon is going to come, then they have it as a rest day. They don't have the children go to school anymore.
And now, if the typhoon approach, and the published issue the huge wind alert, every children are very happy because they don't have to go to school. 人は歩くようにゆっくり進んできた。ということは台風は洪水というのはトータルの雨の量で決まりますので、ものすごくゆっくり来ると大阪にたくさんの雨が降った。そうすると台風が来た時にもほとんど洪水直前の時に高潮が来たんで堤防が切れてるんです。淀川の堤防が切れて多くのエリアが浸水してしまった。
Okay, so the J typhoon, the characteristic of this typhoon, it's also strong, as strong as the York typhoon, but it was slow. Okay, it was slow, so that most of the rainfall fell on Osaka, which broke the gates, and so the water came rushing in.
で、これの反省点はね、水を引く前に海は低い場所ですから、まずエンバンクメントの終了しないとダメですよね。で、時間がすごく避難所での生活がすごく長引いたんです。伝染病が発生しました。だからそれの反省で今避難所の衛生管理がものすごく厳しくなってます。
Okay, and they looked back and they had to fix the embankment, and also that time there were problems with regards to hygiene, Okay, a lot of people got sick because of hygiene, and they also they improved hygiene in that area. Yeah.
Because they have forced to live in the evacuate center for a long time. They spread the disease. To prevent the disease, we have to improve the condition of the
Evacuation.
Medicines or clinics, ACEs. 2分間台風の映像を流します。
2 minutes of the Jane typhoon.
Second Murato typhoon stands for that Murato one comes. 日本語で言う第2ムラト台風の話をします。なぜ第2ムラト台風というかというと、中心キャスとかコースがほとんどムラト台風と同じコースで接近してきたので、非常に大きなまた被害が起きるだろうということで、皆さんがすごく恐れた台風です。
Okay, so they call this the second Muroto typhoon. Now the reason why they call it the second Muroto typhoon is because the class of typhoon is similar, and also the direction, okay, the course of the typhoon was similar to the Muroto typhoon, and that's why people were afraid of it.
で結果を見ますとですね、犠牲者の数は約 10% です。
Okay, so the victims were about 10% of the first Muroto typhoon.
台風自身が同じような条件で来たのになぜ 10% で済んだかというと、一つはこれまでの間にですね、ハードウェアを十分に整備したので、それの効果がありました。
Okay, so even though the same typhoon, the same class, the same course, okay, came, it had much fewer victims. Why was that? It was because all through the years they were able to prepare, they were able to build infrastructure that helped them prevent the old problems they had then.
だけどその 10% の犠牲も行政としては許されないので、理由を考えますと、地下水の使用がこの時条例でですね、地方の条例でできれば使わないようにというレコメンデーションだけだったんです。だからみんな守らなかったんで、それで沈下が続いたから、せっかくハードウェアを作っても下がるというようないたちごっこでですね、水が溢れたというのが分かります。で、この教訓で国会でですね、きつい法律を作って、もう使ったら厳しい罰則があるということで禁止されます。それ以降ですね、沈下が止まったんで、その高さに合わせて今の構造物が設計されているという。
Okay, so the reason why they still had the 10% was because, it was because of the canals. Okay, they were using the canals, but the administration, the government, just recommended not to use them. There wasn't any law to prevent them from using it.
Local code, only a local.
Okay, and the administration, they didn't want this to happen again, and so there was a law which was passed, which would prevent the usage of the canals again, okay, because the usage of the canals made the land sink further. Okay.
So now we have a strong law with a severe punishment. No one uses underwater. And we can estimate the goal of the sinking cell. So that is the turn of the expert of the technology. We can calculate, make the criteria, how height will be necessary to protect all the such as strongest typhoon were attacked the Nagoya district in the past. It has attacked here, it is still safe. So that's why you have the red line. You saw the red line, but we could protect this city. But one can tell later in the future, the global warming will be some bad influence in our city. So maybe it is a turn to, not only implementation of the hardware itself, but at the same moment getting ready for an estimated disaster, preparing for the evacuate to the safety area. の洪水を止めるための川をせき止めるわけですから、当然中が洪水になっちゃうと、ほっとくと。で、ここのケマのところですごく1秒間に330トンという排水能力がある、ポンプを同時に稼働して淀川に全部流して町を守るということになっています。
Okay, so these three areas you will find gates like these, and when a strong typhoon comes, they close the gates. Okay, but since these gates are closed, okay, with strong rain, that what happens is that there are floods in these areas. Okay, they will flood easily because the gates are closed; they can't go up. So in this area over there, they have a pump, which pumps the water out. So it goes back out to the sea.
Which has the ability of the 330 tons per second. You can imagine the one swimming pool, it takes only 1 second to drain it.
But if something happens to them, they're insured.
これ何をしてるか簡単に言いますとね、川っていうのは、水というのはこういうふうにカーブがあると遠心力がかかる。外側の人は堤防を補強しています。水の力が高い。内側の人はというのは、この水位が下がると、土の中を水がこう浸透してきて、溢れてきて、決壊というようなことになります。ですから、その水位差を下げるためにこういう土のうで空路を作って、何もなければ、もっとその水位がそれをこう上げたら、水位差で壊す圧力を下げると。そういう昔の知恵の練習をしている。
Okay, over here is a mock-up of a model of what they usually do to try to equalize the level of water, since this is a turning due to the force, some of the water may spill over. Okay, basically that's what they practice this.
He's thoroughly in the traditional way.
Did you say earlier that people are sorry? Did you say earlier you've got volunteers on guard effectively every night? The volunteers are they out every night regardless, just in case?
The volunteer for resistors in the case of this kind of disaster, they will do something. And usually they are the ordinary person, like the local shops. But to be correct, they are the public service. They are not paid. But in the case of they are injured or lost their lives, tax will pay as an insurance for the life insurance. So usually they want to protect the people from the natural disaster. That's the motivation. And これを土のうっていうんですけどね。これがすごく重要で、こういうものをみんなで作るので、同じサイズで同じ形にするというような練習が普段されています。
And they usually practice to make these bags to stop the water from spilling over from flooding. Okay, and it has to be the same size, same weight. It's here. No? How heavy is it? It's about 10 kilos.
10 kilos. So if you pack fully, you cannot lift it. The most important thing is, making this kind of the pool to reduce the difference of height from the surface of the river to the ground, and it can decrease the power trying to destroy the environment itself. で、じゃあ次、これはね、ちょっとだけな、さっきのスペースですね。この後ですね、映画を見てもらいます。で、その映画をなぜ作ったかという過去の先人からのメッセージです。で、これは実際の実物が700メーターぐらいのところにあるんですけど。
なんででしょうか。なんで映画を作ったか。
この先人からのメッセージをこの石碑から受け継いで、その精神を映画にしたというのは特にあります。
これは何ですか？
先に全ストーリーを説明しますね。
はい。
これをまず説明していただきたいんですよね。大阪に大体最低90年から150年間隔で津波が押し寄せてきています。
Okay, wait. Every 90 to 150 years, a strong earthquake comes to Osaka.
Following its now.
Okay.
で、この石碑は今から167年前に大阪を襲った津波の後でですね、作られたものです。
And this rock over here, stone monument, was made about 157 years ago after the tsunami came.
This is only a replica. The real thing is located 700 meters over that direction.
So this is just a replica.
And このサイドは約1万人ぐらいの方が亡くなったので、鎮魂のための仏教のお祈りが書いてあります。
And on the rock is a prayer, a Buddhist prayer for the many people that died during the tsunami.
Around 10,000 people, you say. でこちらはいつで後ろの方はちょうどニュースペーパーみたいに何が起こったかというのが文字で書いてあります。
So, okay. Now this is when it happened, and then at the back is the actual description of what happened.
You can imagine the newspaper.
So it's like a newspaper report.
何が起こったかというのはこういうことが書いてある。
So what's written is that, okay, that picture. Describe that picture.
You can remember the first photo, as I told you, that here's the river marks. The same thing as that. ね、ちょうどね、地震の前に、津波の前に、2日前に、そうですね、この地震の後の津波なんですが、32時間前に名古屋で大きな地震がありました。
Okay, so about 32 hours. 32 hours before the tsunami, there was a strong earthquake in Nagano Prefecture.
Nagoya. 200 kilometers far from here. And after that, it lasted the middle-sized earthquake, and people were scared because at that moment all the houses are wooden made, and it is very easy to destroy. And after destroyed, if one is lit it, the fire will be spread, and it's very hard to survive from that. So the people gather on the boat or on the bridges, and then 32 hours later, a huge earthquake attacked here, and 2 hours later, the tsunami attacked, and then it come through penetrate the river first, and all the people evacuated on the ships or the boat or on the shore or the bridges. They are, just involved just like a washing machine, and no one survived. There's a written like this. And at the last sentences, they say that after the huge earthquake, please don't get close to the river, not to take on a boat. And then the last sentence is a very unique one. I've never heard that okay, first of all, I will introduce. They say that those who can understand and agree with sending this message in the future, would you put the black ink in here in order to let the people in the future can read it clearly. And receiving that, the neighboring residents continue to put the ink inside through more than the 1.5 century. And as long as I heard from all the guests visiting here, that is around 72 countries, there is no such a storm moment. There's lots of this storm moment to dedicate the death or casualty itself, but to send a message in the future and, continue the maintenance activity is the only one in here. Because we know that those who have built this monument saw people dead, more than 10,000 people. And survivors said that Osaka is a very old city, so there are lots of houses, living here more than centuries. And some said, in my houses, there's some written sentences, same things happened. But we couldn't send this message at that moment. So maybe the 1 century or more later, the same thing will happen. So this important message has to be passed in the descendant of death, which is us. And they, agree with that kind of the message. Lots of people living around this stone monument, and every year in the summer, 23rd of August, they have put the ink inside. And this stone monument is, at that moment, was the most preceding technologies. But now, this is a very old-fashioned way. We have the more nice, better technology. So later on, maybe 3 minutes later, you can watch the movie. And that contained the message in the case of you're attacked by huge earthquake while you're staying here. It might be today or tomorrow. No one can predict because it has been more than 80 years. It was the 1945, the last tsunami that year. So it is possible. I'm quite serious. Today it might be happening, but within the next generation, maybe for my kids, they will be attacked by such a huge earthquake while they're alive in here. So what should you do is a very important thing. There's another stone monument here. It was also built in the same period after that huge earthquake occurred in the year of 1854, and it was built in the southern neighboring cities. The name is Sakai, and it says in the case aftershock, gather this park. The first come to this park. The park is located in the top of the hill, so all the people survive. So on the other hand, in Osaka, the same natural disaster killed 10,000 people, but in Sakai, no one killed. That is the value of the information itself. If you know, no one can lose your life. If you don't know, it might be some bad affair will be happening. I remember in the year of 2004, after the Sumatra huge earthquake, as the first video referred, they killed 240,000 people. And after that, we sent the study team, and the results say more than 94% of the Indian, those people living in the host countries, doesn't know anything about the natural disaster. So that resulted in the loss of the life of 240,000. If they knows about that, that would be decreased. So,